Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Indie Originals with Jake Estrada, along with Chuck Fresh and Felicia B. I don't know where they're at right now, but I'm sitting right beside me is Josh Whitener, or up north they say Whitner. So how you doing, Josh?
Good, Jake. How are you?
Doing great. I'm wearing my hat, so you know.
You are wearing your hat.
Yeah. So I'm styling. So let's jump right into this. Tell us a bit about yourself, man.
Myself. Okay. Well, I'm originally I was born in South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
That's where the origin started. I moved around a lot growing up, but I spent most of my time in Tampa, growing up outside of Tampa in Clearwater, Florida. Moved around a lot for colleges. Went to one in Virginia, one in Illinois, and then back to Virginia, and then I came back here. I've been here probably about 2 or 3 years, but my family is in Melbourne as well, so I just roam. But, you know,
so you're a roamer.
I'm a roamer, but I've been in Brevard for about 2 or 3 years now.
2 or 3 years. So, have you ever done any modeling?
I have not done any modeling.
How you doing?
Yeah, I have not done any modeling. Never thought about it either. No, not with this nose. I don't think so.
I mean, you sure?
No, it's fine. And you know.
I mean, a lot of women are out there clamoring for you. They're like, Josh, we want you.
Right outside.
I'm seeing them right now.
Right
man.
outside there, you're keeping them out there. Okay.
Yeah, they're right there. I'm holding them at bay.
I gotcha.
So what did you do? See, now I'm talking stuttering. See, man, you're making me do this, man. I'm falling for you hard. I mean, seriously.
What do you want to know, Jake?
I mean, I want to know your darkest fantasies.
What was the question?
So growing up, what did you want to do?
What did I want to do? Okay. When I was a kid, actually, I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Really?
I did. I thought I was kind of funny, and so did other people.
Give us some jokes,
I don't have any jokes for you, man. I don't. And as I grew up, that dream kind of faded, I guess. I don't know why. But yeah, when I was little, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. So I guess I've always kind of wanted to do something in the realm of stage, or in acting, in the back of my mind. But when I was about 11 or 12, I wrote my first story for school. Yeah, and I got into it. I was actually very irritated because I had like an in-school suspension. I went to a private school, and they had these really ridiculous rules, like you can't have your shirt untucked, and you can't chew gum and stuff like that. So like obviously,
you're really strict.
Yeah, obviously so
you were a rebel.
Yeah, my mom taught at the school too, so it was kind of like
that makes that
I
worse.
had to really be sneaky when I was there. So I wrote this story about a kid who joins a gang and then ends up coming to the school and killing the school principal. It was pretty dark. Yeah,
you're my kind of guy, man. And I totally get that, dude.
Which was, and back then, like Columbine hadn't happened yet and all this stuff.
So people didn't judge that.
They didn't look at it like that, but my English teacher, she told me she wanted to see me after class. And I thought I was going to be in trouble. But I was kind of like, I'm going to be in trouble for this.
Yeah.
And she actually told me it was a really good story.
Oh, wow.
And that I should, she kind of praised it and sort of encouraged me to, you should do more of this. And I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
So I started writing stories on like the old school storybook Weaver, on that, and I started just using Word documents, and I created worlds is what I did. I did that from a very little age. I just played pretend and made up my own little universes. Yeah, so that's where it all kind of started.
So that got you into writing. So how did that delve you into becoming a hometown news reporter?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, since I've written, since I've been about 11 or 12, and I kind of still did it in high school. I did very well in English, and then when I went to college, first thing I declared my major as an English major and a creative writing minor. So cool. I started doing more of that. That sort of morphed into doing student teaching and education. So I thought, I'm going to be a teacher like my parents and all this other stuff. And when I took a break from college for like 7 years, and then I went back at 25 or 6.
No shame, man.
Yeah, no. It was
you got it done.
It was actually a really interesting experience to come back older after you've like been in the workforce for a while.
You matured some.
Absolutely.
You were more focused.
Right. So I decided it's been a while since I've seen my name in print, so I'm going to see if I can write for the school paper.
Sweet.
So I did. I wrote I wrote an article about another article that I had written before, which was on this girl who went to Columbia University and she was carrying around her mattress around campus as a protest of sexual assault. So I wrote about what she was doing, and I presented it to the editor, and she said, "This is really good. Like, can you make it more centered around our college?" I was like, "Yeah, I can." And this was before, excuse me, Rolling Stone, came out with their whole sexual assault thing, and then it kind of caught on. It was a wave. So I kind of did this right before
You're a
that.
pioneer.
In a way. Like, I did this
No, you're a pioneer.
I did this right
take the
before
credit.
that. So anyway, it was kind of like a steamroll from that.
Yeah.
I started writing articles. I wrote like 9 articles on sexual assault, and I just kept doing it. And eventually I became the assistant news editor, and then I became the news editor, and it was just one thing after the other. So then I switched my major over to my minor to journalism, and then got my degree. Came back here, and same thing. I just saw Hometown News somewhere and thought, I wonder if they're looking for freelancers. So I called them up, and they were, and put me on as a freelancer. And then eventually I was a stringer, which was like more stories. And then they hired me on as the assistant editorial assistant. So yeah, so that's how that became what it was. And I just keep doing, what I do. And
so you have this whole Hometown News thing, but meanwhile, you're also a comic book fan. I know.
Yes, I am. I'm a pretty big comic book fan. Ever since I was little, mainly DC stuff was what I grew up with.
Okay.
Batman, Superman. My dad kind of taught me to read off comics, so that was cool.
Yeah, comics are great.
Yeah, they are. And I didn't really collect them growing up, but then I started getting into, when I was like right around high school age, I started getting into DC's Vertigo line. So I started reading Sandman.
And Hellblazer.
And Hellblazer was a big one, Swamp Thing and all that. And Preacher was actually the one that got me back into
Garth
comics.
Ennis.
It was really, I was reading these comics like, whoa, like this is really crazy stuff.
Those are great comics right there,
so,
classics.
Yeah. So then I started, I got into, Hellblazer was a big one for me. I love John Constantine, I love that character.
Yeah.
And
you sort of look like him.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. There was a relatability to John Constantine because I was this, kind of rebel. I smoked and I drank a lot and all this other stuff.
So
I just wasn't British.
Resonated.
Yeah, he resonated with me. And I always liked supernatural themes. So I always liked stories that revolved around supernatural and stuff like that. So,
cool.
And then I started writing stories that were more serialized. They were more themed, and it became this thing called Trickster, which is what has evolved into the comic that I'm making now.
Yeah. So Trickster is. You don't mind?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Camera here. So some of these are
these are preview pages. These are basically like preview images that my artist Brian Wilson has done to kind of promote what will be published soon at the end of the summer. And these are kind of characters. This K sort of thing that you see right there is the K that my cover artist Tim Sealing designed. So he kind of put that image in these characters, and that's what we have here. And I could talk a little bit more about the characters.
Yeah, actually, what I like about this, and this is your cover artist.
The K is the cover artist. The rest of it is Brian Wilson. He's my interior.
Yeah, so pretty much what I like about is the stark contrast that you do here with the negative energy and everything like that in the artwork. It's kind of reminiscent of Frank Miller.
Absolutely, yeah. He doesn't mind that comparison either. He had some of his inspirations were Frank Miller and can't remember who else, but the guy that does Max, Sam Keith, and all that. So those
you can see that a lot too. The Max and Sam Keith. And then right there, that's supposed to be the lead character, Trickster, right?
Yep, that's Jack Augustine.
The Jack Augustine, which kind of looks like you.
He's based off of me. Narcissistically, that is the main character.
I mean,
so, yeah.
And then I like, I read the sample pages that you sent and everything like that, and I like that you have that whole political slant and how.
Yeah, and I guess if I'm going to explain the comic, I should explain the world of it.
Yeah.
But so the universe is set in about like 2007, 2008 time period.
Yeah.
But the world is a very different place. Back then, we were still in war with Iraq and war on terror and all that kind of stuff was like at its worst level.
Yeah, it was right there.
It goes sideways. There's more terrorist attacks in the United States in smaller cities. The government kind of doesn't know what to do, and it kind of disassembles itself in a way. George Bush is elected to a third term, kind of like a Roosevelt thing, where it's like, yep, they're going to have to, do the 22nd Amendment and continue on this thing because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And it sort of becomes this sort of oligarchy where these major, rich people or secret sects of people start controlling the power. Yeah, they're kind of like the hands that turn the wheels.
Media and all that stuff.
So the black market sort of erupts into the regular market. It's bled into it. So it's kind of like, if the world would be like the Wild Wild West in this, modern setting, this is what the world is like.
So it's sort of kind of like, reading into it, and what you're telling me makes you also feel kind of like a Watchmen type.
In a way,
setting.
yeah. And honestly, I can't say that I've read all of Watchmen. I think I read some of it, but that wasn't one of those. It's derivative from ideas that I had.
No, but the thing is, what I liked about that.
I got you.
I like that a lot because I like the fact that you brought in like today's kind of world emerging from the past.
That's always been one of the things I like to do, is take like an alternate history, so to speak. I really like those, and I like the way that people do them, like the Handmaid's Tale sort of alternate future
great
deal,
show.
And the I can't remember what it is, the one where the Nazis win World War II.
The Philip K. Dick.
Yeah, that Philip K. Dick stuff, and it's The Man in the High Tower.
Man in the High Tower.
Yeah,
great show too.
Yeah, that would have bugged me the whole interview. Yeah. So I like doing that because it's like you can play with stuff you already know and kind of think of what could happen. And kind of play with people's expectations of what their scary scenarios are. So in this world, I've got characters that are based off of people I know and myself, and I sort of took things that happened in my life and I just sort of amplified them to 11 and said, let's fictionalize this incident that happened to me. What would it be if it was like this? So when I describe what these characters are like in the story, I basically take my friends and I know them already. And I know them, like they're my core friends, most of them, and I say, what's the worst situation that we can put ourselves in? Okay. And that's where these stories come from.
Cool. So while you're doing your comic, I see that you got into acting.
I did. I got bored, so I went to acting.
Yeah. I mean, you're thrown into this local production called what?
Bocas. I was honored to be in a film that you created called Bocas, and it was one of the best experiences I've had, honestly. I can explain how we came about this. You were looking for a church to film a big scene in, and my dad happens to be a pastor. And
beautiful church, by the way, guys.
Ascension Lutheran Church. Yeah. Yes. So it was just that deal brokering that you had an actor that fell out, and you said, "Hey, would you want to do this role?"
It turned out to be the best choice.
and
it was like the lottery. Ding, 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 ding. The guy comes in, he walks in, he was the character. Yeah. I mean, in fact, I read somewhere that you said that you lived as Robert Hill for 2 weeks.
I did.
So you method act this thing.
I method right. So there's no way I would have been able to do this just walking in and saying, "Hey."
So I can imagine that must have been hell for your girlfriend.
It was interesting because I did spend like 2 weeks just kind of being isolated and as much as I could just internalizing a lot of anger and a lot of sort of what this guy would have felt when he knew that his wife was cheating on him, and he's a drug addict, he's an alcoholic, he's a cop, so it's like the worst mix of things. He can do terrible things to people with impunity if he wanted to. And so I just became that character, and I going to work and coming home and all, it was kind of just I kept to myself, and I just kind of read the lines, and I made up a backstory for him that wasn't available to me because I just needed some background on this guy. So I made up a childhood for him, I made up all kinds of things in my mind, and I just lived it. And so when it came to filming the scenes, it was sort of like I could just walk into a situation that I kind of played with.
Yeah, because when you filmed it, it was just like you were 100%.
And there were a couple breaks in between when we were at the church filming, and I was talking to Rick about like just normal everyday stuff. But I had to like cut back into it, and it was weird because I was like, I'm really kind of just mad, I'm angry, pissed off. And, not to give away any of the scenes, but it was very cathartic kind of to play this role, and then to have like the ending of them in the scenes and stuff like that. So it was a really great experience, and I want to thank you for that because it's one of those things that's opened me up to other roles that I'm trying to get right now. And I'm going to film a short film with a guy named Ryan King.
Nice.
In I think they're shooting in Mims or Titusville. I play like a henchman sort of deal. It's got fight choreography, so I was like,
that's awesome, man.
Down,
I love hearing
I'll
that.
go watch Born Identity a couple of times and
You'll be like, ah!
right, yeah. Parkouring off of things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So where do you see yourself going with this acting along with comic book?
I haven't really thought about it. In terms of the acting, I do want to kind of pursue maybe some improv stuff or something to, just kind of build on what I think is, kind of some talent that I have a little bit.
So you think at one point you're going to have a movie based off of your comic?
I would love to have that. Actually, I would really like to do it as a series. That'd be great.
Yeah,
if HBO picks that up or AMC, wink, wink. It works that way, and I kind of write it that way as an episodic sort of saga, if you will. Because I have so many ideas for Trickster. It's, I have at least 100 issues that I could put out story-wise with the plots that I have. And this thing does have a beginning, middle, and end. So it's not something that I just stumbled into and I was like, well, where am I going to take it? Like, I have a definitive...
Do you?
Definitive beginning, middle, and end. So,
if there's one thing that you want everyone to know about you, what would that be?
That's an interesting question. I'm just a writer. I'm a writer, but I also, I want to branch out there and do, just similar things. The acting thing's really good, but
so you consider yourself more of a storyteller.
I do, in a way, yeah. And I guess acting is storytelling.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Story, writing. So. Yeah, I've always, in the end, I've always wanted to be a storyteller and kind of get a message across while I do that. And journalism kind of helps me do that too, because when I write articles, they're generally, things about, they're not necessarily good news articles, but they're informative. I try to write about things that people would want to, be informed about in our community.
So if a kid were to come up to you today, let's say like a 20-year-old, and he comes up to you and says, I really want to be a writer, what kind of advice would you give him?
I just tell him to keep writing. When you're a writer, it's hard to say if anybody can tell you if you have it, whatever it is. I think that's irrelevant. I think if you just keep writing and you take that somewhere, that's what happened. It's what happened to me, and that's all I can say. What happened to me. I took my ability to write and I put it into something. And journalism is a field, a career that you do write in. And when I tell stories or when I write articles, I try to tell stories, a narrative, give people a narrative to read. So it's. I never took writing workshop classes. I was never somebody that wanted to sit around with other writers and talk about stuff. In fact, I don't get along with other writers. I just don't.
You're a rebel, man.
Yeah, you're a rebel. It's not that I don't get along with them. I just don't.
You have your own ideas.
I do, it's just one of those things that's been me, and I've done what I wanted to do in my single track.
I totally get that.
Collaborating with Brian has been amazing, though. This guy is really telling the story, and he's taking it out of my mind and putting it on page.
And when you get a partner like that, it's actually great.
And I met him through the Independent Creators group in Facebook, and he was the first person. This is how this all began. I put a post out there saying, "Hey, listen, I'm interested in making these stories into a comic, in so many words." And
that was what, less than a year ago?
It was back in November, I'd say. And so he was the first person to respond, sent me a sample page of something he was working on, and I can't remember. It was based off of the Doors song, This Is the End, whatever. And I think he did a little narrative, no captions, just images. A lot of shadow work, a lot of black and white, and I was like, that's perfect. Because I always wanted to keep it in black and white. So I asked him, hey, you interested in doing this? And he said, yeah. And
So the first issue's done, or
the first issue is almost done. I think we have 5 more pages to go.
So what's your plans? You're going to send it in print? It's going to be digital?
I'm going to do it myself, self-publish it, and have it ready. I do have a couple publishers in mind I want to send it to, but like I said, this is just for me, really.
Yeah.
I like to just get this one issue and say, hey, I did this, and we're going to put it out there, no doubt. And actually, the first issue is only the first part of the story. It's a 2-parter story, so obviously to tell the whole story, I needed 2 issues.
Yeah.
But we could talk about the actual first issue too. It's not, without giving anything away, that the main point of the story is we get introduced to these characters.
Yeah.
And it's the setup of the world in a way. And you're a comic writer. It's kind of, it's difficult to, sort of introduce people and tell a story at the same time and keep that kind of, mesh. But it introduces these characters into a world that's very different from our own. And just to kind of set up what the story is, Jack gets involved in he kind of lands himself back in Tampa where he grew up, and finds out that one of his ex-girlfriends was murdered, and along with her husband, and it kind of sets in motion this trail where he feels responsible, so he goes after people that may have information on it, and that's how you get introduced to these characters in a way.
Cool. So we're here with Josh Whitener. We'll be right back with more. Hey guys, Indie Originals Live here. I'm Jake Estrada along with Chuck Fresh and Felicia B. This is going to be a channel where time to time you either see one of us, and we're going to be featuring live actors. We're going to be talking about movies, filmmakers, books. We're going to be talking about games, anything that has to do with the creative arts. This is going to be the new channel, and we're excited about this. I know I'm excited. We had a great time at IndieCon. If you guys need to check that out, you need to go check out our website to see pictures about that, about IndieCon. We featured live musicians. We had, and they're right there. I'm talking all kind of crazy, but what I'm trying to tell you, Indie Originals Live. This is a brand new channel, and we're bringing you fresh content on a daily basis, from music down to, like I said, movies, filmmakers. So make sure you get a chance, subscribe to this brand new channel, and we're going to bring you all this fresh content. We're going to have live people next to me right now. You don't see nobody right now, but soon enough, you're going to see a brother or a sister, and I'm going to So Indie Originals Live. Jake here with Josh Whitener, and we're looking at some of the artwork right here, and I mean, there's a illustration of, who's that, Trump? No, I mean, that's Bush. He's doing his three things.
I miss him now, don't you?
Yeah, the guy was a character for sure,
Yes, in this, Bush is in his third term, sort of a behind the scenes. He's not really a character in the story, but we just wanted to set up that, the world is in a different place.
Yeah.
We've never seen this before, where a president who was unpopular in a war, be reelected to a third term because nobody could challenge him. So just kind of give you an idea of how the state of the world is in the first issue.
Yeah.
And Brian, in my script, I told him, just have him being sworn in a bunker or whatever. He gives me this image of Bush throwing up three fingers.
Yeah,
and it's like, this is perfect. And this is the kind of art and style that we mesh with. I don't really need to tell Brian much when it comes to the detail of the script. He kind of just knows, and it's crazy. It's kind of weird. He'll send me the images back, and I'm like, oh my god, you just plucked this out of my brain.
I mean, I actually love the art a lot, because it's a weird mesh of photorealism with this fantasy high concept world.
Yeah,
and it has Frank Miller-ish type of, this black and white. I mean, I love black and white comics.
Yeah, it fits really well. We actually started it, the first 2 pages he actually did do color, and I just said, you know what, one, to make the process easier, and 2, it just fits with the tone of the series.
Yeah.
It's not a happy series by any means. I mean, it's kind of, it's dark.
It kind of sets up that tone.
Yeah, I want to have that noir look. And
noir is perfect.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it's strong, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So, without giving away much of the plot, could you tell us a bit more about Trickster?
Yeah, so the first issue, it's a slow burn in terms of the background. I wanted to give the idea of what the world was like. So we get introduced to this character, Jack Augustine, who is coming from Los Angeles back to Tampa, where he grew up. We don't really know why at this point, but he meets up with his oldest friend, Cy Langston, who is based off of my friend of 20 years, Jason Mueller, and he runs a bar, and it's just kind of an introduction to how these characters interact with each other in this world. I actually set Florida as this state that's been hit by a Katrina type hurricane in
the nation's penis
in the years before, and so it's kind of in a wreck. Florida's not in a great shape either. No. It's just sort of what would happen if a major hurricane came through and wiped us out. We were not prepared.
Yeah.
So
Florida would be pretty bad.
Yeah, there's some places in it that are literally underwater and stuff. So it's sort of
scary.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, if Florida couldn't get any more messed up, I made it messed up. So but there's a murder that takes place. The story starts off with a murder, and that's not revealing anything. That's the actual start of the story, and it's Jack's ex-girlfriend of years ago. And so he somehow looks at it like there's something wrong here, that's not just your regular type of murder. And as he delves deeper into it, he networks through his old friends. There's one but based off of.
That's like a play.
It is, and it's like there's one based off of a friend, Brittany Smith, and she is like a madam. She runs a brothel sort of deal.
I like
back
brothels.
in that day, and she's very connected with what is going on in the city. And so he interacts with that, and it leads to a drug dealer that he used to work for, and all this. It's just a very crime-oriented network of people. But the story takes him through this murder and what part he played in it, if any, and who's to blame and who's responsible. He sort of takes it on himself to solve something that's not any of his business.
Wow.
But that's the point. That's sort of the personification of Jack. He sticks his nose in places that don't belong. Wow. And he ends up, paying the consequences of those. But
I'm excited for this book. I can't wait to actually own a copy.
I honestly, and my friends that are watching this, they are probably looking at this like, oh my God, this guy has had these ideas in his head for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And has sat, with many beers and rambled on and on about it, and now he's actually doing something with it.
You're living a dream, man.
And that's really cool. It's a really cool feeling. Bottom line, I'm doing this because, I wanted to do it, and a lot of people, that's, and to come back to your original question about somebody coming up to me, a 20-year-old saying, I want to write, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever done in the past couple of years, to say, you know what, I want to do this and I'm going to make it happen one way or another. And you can do that. I think we've seen that. You guys, Indie Originals showcase people that do this all the time. And I think it's a very encouraging thing for the community, because there are people out there that just feel like, I can't do this, it's too much work, or I'm not good enough, or whatever. And none of that matters. You just have to do what you want to do and what makes you feel that pride for your own creative work.
And I think, you're excellent. You're an excellent example of that.
Well, thank you.
Because here you are. You're doing a comic book, and you're doing it because you love it, and you're a writer. You're a prime example, and people need to look at you as inspiration. I'm inspired,
Thank you.
And I've been doing it for years. You inspire me.
I would never in my life, if you'd asked me that 2 years ago, say, hey, you're an inspiration of some kind. I'd be like, I don't know what.
No,
I don't know what you're on, but you need to give me some of it. Because
I'm on something else completely different, man. I'm high every day on air, I always say.
But so it's been a great privilege and honor to come and talk about all this, and I really appreciate it. And I hope that once the issue's done, what should be done by the end of the summer out there.
Okay.
Get it on some stands and just see what people think.
I'm excited. I can't wait. I can't wait. So I asked this question earlier. So it's going to be available digitally.
It should be. I'm going to plan for digitally and in print.
Awesome.
And like I said, I'm going to look at several different publishers
that
might be interested in it and maybe help alleviate the cost of that second issue. But Brian and I are determined to make the second issue.
Have you thought about a Kickstarter?
I don't really know. I've never begged for money online, but maybe.
It's the first time you're a panhandler. There's still a time you.
Yeah.
A dollar.
So who knows? Who knows? But
I can lend you my hat.
I think with that hat, I have no problem. So it's just been really a wild ride, and I really enjoy doing it. And I'm going to keep doing it.
It's been exciting. I can't wait. And well, guys, like I said, I'm excited. And thank you again, Josh.
Thank you, Jake. No problem.
So make sure you check out. You have a website for this?
I don't. You can check out my Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/Josh Whitener 18, I believe.
We'll have the link.
We'll have that link.
We'll have the link.
We're
going to show everything, guys, and you'll find him. And make sure you follow him and you find out what's him about and everything like that. Because you know what? I don't even know what I just said him about, But again, follow him. We're going to have the links. And this is Jake Estrada with Indie Originals with Josh Whitener, along with Chuck Fresh and Felicia B. Where are you, Felicia? Anyway, peace out, guys.